Okay, so here's my question to you. I want to go back to the other day, right? So Dalton, if you were here the other day, you remember your comment to the effect was we were talking about white privilege, right? And, dude, thanks, bro. And you said, at some point, the two of you were talking, and at some point you said, you know, the two of you sound really angry, right? You said, it was angry.
Well, I said aggressive. Aggressive,
yeah, okay. Even better. Aggressive, right? And so here's my question, right? So first off, for the two of you, how do you know, as women, as black women or brown, you happen to both be black, so it could be black and brown women, it doesn't, but as black women, how do you know, how do you when something uncomfortable happens, that you're like, oh, what was that? How do you know when it's about gender or when it's about race? What are the signals that you have? Like, so when he made the comment about, wow, the two of you sound really aggressive, how do you know when it's about gender or when it's about race? Like what signals are there as black women?
I mean, what he said, I mean, I'm not going to say, like, what you said was necessarily, like, your fault. Like, that's just, like, part of just like society perceptions. Like it's like an inward thing, just the way like that we're built, like a lot of people are built as Americans. So I feel like when it comes to certain stereotypes, so what's often commonly seen, so like for black women are often seen as like aggressive or loud or like quote unquote ghetto or whatever, like that's when the stereotype comes into play. And that's also when like intersectionality comes into play, because it's like a mix of both. So I feel like it goes to women issues, because then like women can't speak up without like fear of being perceived a certain way.
Sure, like the data are pretty clear that women, the things that I can do, getting angry, appearing to be aggressive, being loud, being any number of things, will actually, in most situations, will uplift me, will give me more authority, make me more likable, will do all sorts of things, and that for the two of you, as women, just women, will actually work against you. But so the intersectionality thing, so how about you, like, what are the cues, what are the signals, like in that moment? When did you go to race or did you go to gender?
I personally went to both, because I felt like the comment was very stereotypical. Anytime black women are given a platform, or women of color are given a platform to talk about race or sensitive subjects, I think that is just the go-to, oh, you're being aggressive, oh, you're being the angry black woman. And I really did feel targeted. I felt singled out. I felt like when you think about women and women talking about these sensitive topics, the first go-to is, oh, you're being sensitive or you're being emotional. But then when you intersect the fact of being a black woman, then you get this, you're being aggressive, you're being rude. So
where where in your mind, like just for the two of you, we're going to get to you, bro, right? Just in your minds, like what story do you tell yourself about where that comes from? When people say, either men or white people say, yeah, you're being aggressive or rude or whatever it is, right? What story do you tell yourself about why they say that?
I say that because they didn't like what I had to say. Anytime.
What do you mean they didn't like it?
I mean, I actually watched a clip, and I watched it a lot, and I really got a lot of feedback from that, and I really don't think I was aggressive at all. I just think that you in particular and the gentleman that was up here probably didn't like what I had to say. So instead of coming at me intellectually saying, like, you know, trying to counteract the argument, you just went to the easy scapegoat and just called me the angry black woman. And that's what they do. You tone police me.
Yeah, but he was actually on your team.
Yeah.
He was trying to make the same argument, right? You were at that moment, you were on the black and brown team. So what if he did? So let's just imagine for a second. So this is you came to the conclusion that he didn't like what you had to say, but I'm going to remind you now. So I'm going to ask you to go at it from a slightly different way. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying we're just exploring. He was on your team,
right? And
he said that. So now, where do you think that came from?
Because he probably identified with the individual and didn't like what I had to say.
Okay. All right, hang on, go. What do you think?
I feel like I said, I feel like it's just like a part of like a societal view. And I feel like, I mean, it's 2019, but prior to 2019, there's so many things that created like that stereotype. And I feel like the the intersectionality comes into play when it's like she said, women are seen as, if you do this, you're too emotional or whatever. But the race, like the black race, is often perceived as angry, and I feel like that's done like purposely when it comes to like the criminal justice system. Like a black male, if he like gets a little bit loud, it's like, oh my gosh, everyone like clutch their purses and all that. So I feel like when you're a black woman doing that, it's like the same type of theory. And it's like through like media. Like news outlets, movies, different things like that just affect like people's like perception like on the daily, especially like living and seeing that for like 21 years. It's just like how it's seen.
Dude, how about you? So you thought about it, right? Or obviously you thought about it over the weekend. Where do you think, where do you imagine that the comment, where do you tell yourself that comment came from?
I think that regardless of whether or not I'm going to take myself away from the word, right?
Yeah.
I think that it came from like I was witnessing something, like you said, right? Like so you attributed to you were saying something that I didn't like, right? That is true to a certain extent, obviously, or I wouldn't have said that, right? So I'm not saying that it was what you were saying. It was how you were saying it.
So we're tone policing. Okay.
Well, you were tone policing. That's
basically what it was, tone policing.
Yeah,
because you didn't have a problem with the message, you had a problem with the messenger. And
the reason is because if you were looking at the body language of the people you were talking to, they were like hunched over. They were being really
so I
quiet.
need to be apologetic for being confident.
No, wait, hang on.
I need to be apologetic for being confident.
They weren't going to listen to what you were saying.
Wait, hang on. Wait,
no one's
going to
listen
I want
to
to
you.
hear. No, I want to hear what you have to say. No, hang on. First off, wait, hold on one second. Is the word is tone policing? Mm-hmm. All right, I got you. All right, man. Just want to be clear. All right, dude. So you would still say that you felt as though you would go back and say, no, my perception was that the two of them were actually a little bit more aggressive than they needed to be.
Well, I think like using the word aggressive, I think that's almost like another conversation. Like
okay, I got you, but you
right. But I would like to go back to like identifying like a series of actions that I felt like was making the conversation we were having like worse.
Okay, no, I got you.
The quality of the conversation between both parties was getting worse because they were uncomfortable.
Yeah, okay.
And I wanted to ensure that like everybody was kind of understanding where everybody else was coming from because they weren't uncomfortable, and I felt like I should say something to kind of make them more comfortable.
But listen, dude, I hear that. And as a fellow white brother in the world of whiteness, I get that, right? However, right, you could have. So I'm going to now go to the invisible strings piece, right? Right. And tone policing, for example, is that's a connection to invisible strings that people are connected to, right? So I'm going to go to that. So you are back here, and your arms are up like the puppet, right? And the strings are coming down. And you easily could have said, oh, hey, y'all, like the three of us I'm feeling like we're being a little bit aggressive here. Let's just back off a little bit because they're like, whatever, right? Look at their body language. But you didn't say that. And so what you said was to the two of them, hey, I feel like you two are being pretty aggressive. And you were just doing, you were doing what you were doing, right? Got it? So I'm not even saying if you were aggressive or weren't aggressive. I mean, I will personally say I didn't experience you as aggressive, but that's neither here nor there, right?
A lot of people felt like that I wasn't aggressive.
No, I really don't think you were. But however, right, what I want to say to you is, right, if I'm you, and me as a sociologist, if I'm you thinking about everything that I talked about in class today, I'm thinking, wow, in what ways did I make that response because of factors and forces and things that affect me that I don't see and I don't understand? Like, for example, here, can you just sit right there? Can you just come up here really fast? That you very likely, I will say this as a sociologist who studies this stuff, very likely you would not have made the same comment. You would not have used the word aggressive, very likely. What's your name? Katie. If Katie had been sitting there along with Monet, and Katie was saying everything that Alaire said, it's very likely you would not have used the word aggressive, right? Now, what does that mean, right? So, what does that mean for you? Like, hang on. Hold that, dude. You're going to say something, too. Katie, what's it mean for you as a white woman that you can say everything that Alaire said in the same tone if it's true? Look, I'm not being the white liberal here, right? I'm not being like, yeah, Sam the white liberal guy, he just needs to like show the world that white people are racist. I'm not doing that, right? I'm just trying to be really thoughtful about the research that's out there. So Katie, what's it mean for you that you could say everything that Alaire said, the same tone of voice and same everything, and Dalton here would not identify you as aggressive, but actually may have a kind of a positive response to you, even if the people sitting over here were still seated in the same way and had the same body language. What does that mean for you as a white woman?
I definitely feel like I'd get a much different response and it'd be different because, I don't know, I feel like it'd be more of like, oh, that's cute. You have this viewpoint.
Okay,
you know?
Exactly. Got you.
And like,
wouldn't be taken seriously.
Yeah, I think it'd be more that.
You
instead.
don't know. He might say, hey, but hang on, but be careful here, right? So they're not the same. They're just different, right? So got it? What Katie just said is like, yeah, but I feel like I would have the same thing, right? So meaning like, hey, Alaire and I are the same, really, in a way, because I would get put down too. It's like, no. It may be what's kind of what she was implying, but that's not true, right? You're different, right? So it's all true. Like, so you like, but in all likelihood, you'd be seen different. And definitely, if it was me sitting here, stand up really fast, just to demonstrate, stand right here. So if it was me saying the same thing, not being me, but just another white guy, it's really likely. It's absolutely likely. You would never have said aggressive. Like, what's that mean, dude? Like, what's it mean?
I'm just going to ask you a question. Like, how do you know that?
But to read the data, we do study. Here, I know I'll tell you, dude, this is great. God, thank you for asking that.
Can I have one more question, too?
No, hang on. I'm going to answer that one, right? Dudes, we do study after... No, listen up. Dude, if Dalton... Yo. The question Dalton just asked right there, that's the single most important question to ask in this class. Don't let me just be pulling thoughts out of my rear end and spitting them out in here. And you're like, oh, Sam said it, so it must be true. Of course. Dude, thank you for asking that. Here's where I come from. We do study after study after study where we test it up. Remember what I just did right there with the interviewing? Right? Where we put people in these rooms and we control for everything except one tiny thing. So here we control for everything. We do this over and over again and over and over and over. We put you in a room and have a seat again. And we have you make an argument about something to somebody. And these two women are doing a script. In the same script, and they're actors, and they do the same thing over and over and over again, right? And then we just keep bringing you in, a different you in, and somebody else, another white person, another, and we just one after another, and we just see, and then we change their script, and we make them just a little bit nicer, and a little bit whatever, a little less aggressive than you were, and you were like on a 2 on an aggression scale, so we make you a 1. And then we make you a 0, and we just keep seeing how people respond. And what we find is that, oh my God, people keep seeing women, and black women in particular, as aggressive in places where, and then we change it up. We have men come in and they do the same script. And you sit here with men, and they say exactly what Alaire said, and they're trained actors, so their body language is the same, and everything's the same. And then people like you who are in your shoes don't ever say you're being aggressive. And so that's how I know that. We just study after study after study. All it means is, dude, you have no idea what's going on in your life, just like I don't. Okay, so what do you want to say? And then they get the last 2 comments.
Yeah, no problem.
You get 30 seconds.
Like, what percentage of those white people are doing that? Because if it's 100%...
No, it's not 100%.
Okay, well then how do you know that I'm not in the minority?
Well, we don't know that, right? That's why we have no idea.
On top of that, how do you not know that it's not being attributed to some other attribute?
No, maybe here's what you want to say.
Maybe I'm being confident, actually.
No, dude, here's what you want to say.
I don't understand how it can't be contributed to other things.
Everything you're saying, if I could have written a script out for you to say just that, I would have written it out exactly like that. We don't know. We don't know. And all I'm going to say is like the best we can do is say, this might be happening. Let me just look in a mirror and try to figure out what's going on with me. Dude, what's your final comment?
I just want to say what you said, like, were you talking about earlier, like their body tone, how you felt like that was, you know, how you perceived her as, or us as being aggressive. I feel like you're just contradicting yourself at the same time, because their body tone just goes back to, like, the viewpoint that she is being aggressive. If she said the same thing, like, no offense or anything, but if she said the same exact thing, the same exact tone that you literally just spoke to him, that would have been aggressive. So do you see where the same, like,
that is a good point.
Yeah.
I agree.
Listen.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, look, hang on.
Okay.
Dude, and here's the deal, bro. No, bro, listen. What she said, what Monet just said, isn't true. It's an idea that Monet has, and it's an idea that's worth pondering. Because it's like, whoa, what if what you just said, that was actually really interesting. For me.
Ask one question.
Yeah, that's just for me.
And if you want to, like as the class as a whole, if you interpreted like what we said the first time as aggressive, but you didn't interpret what he just said as aggressive, then that just goes back into like the whole study thing, because that's two of the same.
Yeah, you might have been. Yeah, exactly. But they may not have interpreted that. It's less likely they would have interpreted you as aggressive.